and welcome to this episode of the Security Journal America's Leaders in Security podcast series, produced in partnership with Traka. I'm your host, Victoria Hanscomb, and I'm the editor of Security Journal Americas. In this episode, I'm joined by Frank Rojas, Business Development Manager, Hospitality and Gaming at Traka Americas, and Ken Gastro, Regional Vice President of Strategic Accounts at Vingcard. Frank and Ken, thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast. How are you both doing?
Doing well, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks. Doing well as well. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. Excited to get into it today. So before we do get into our discussion on security for hotels and casinos, it'd be great if our listeners could find out a little bit more about yourself. So Frank, would you just be able to tell me a little bit about your role at Traka Americas?
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, I'm the Business Development Manager for Hospitality and Gaming. So I cover hotels and casinos. They both go hand in hand. Obviously, our job here is to try to target this market and hope that Traka can be successful within both of these markets.
Fantastic. And Ken, what about yourself?
So, Vice President of Strategic Accounts for Vingcard Asa Abloy. What does that mean? Well, I'm first based in Las Vegas, Nevada. I built the company for 8.5 years. And what that role means is my responsibility is to oversee our relationships with our key Las Vegas customers and specific management companies around the country, basically serving as their single point of contact and with the goal of making sure we're matching the right solution to their needs and, of course, expanding our business with those customers and possibly new customers that we don't already have.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both. Lovely to have you joining me today. So let's get into our discussion. First off, I just want to ask about some of the vulnerabilities that hotels and casinos can face from a security perspective. So thinking quite broadly, what are some of the main challenges or issues that these kind of large organizations can face? Frank, do you want to start us off on that?
Well, mainly, I think for what they're definitely going to worry about is going to be the guest. And they want to make sure their guests are safe. So having any type of product that helps on that spectrum is going to be crucial for them. And then beyond that, their own assets. Obviously, with casinos, there's going to be a lot of money being moved. There's going to be a lot of operational pieces that need to be secured, assets, keys. So having systems in place that are going to be able to manage those aspects is crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ken, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, specifically a large Las Vegas casino hotel has very unique challenges. It's basically like operating a small city, thousands of guest rooms. There's very high staff turnover. It's a 24/7 operation like most hotels, but of course there's a casino attached as well. So they face enormous security pressures, while balancing the need, to deliver the highest level of hospitality. So they not only have to be concerned with security of their guests and their staff, but their scores as well. Scores are a large source of angst and challenges for these hotel operators.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, we think of how vast the operations are at some of these hotels and casinos. It is like a small city in some ways. So where there are environments with such large staff teams, how do you ensure the safe and efficient access to the keys that they require in their day-to-day roles? There must be so many to keep track of, and there must be a million one people coming along to get keys for certain places that they require access to. So how do we keep track of them? How are they kept secure day to day? Frank, again, do you want to start us off on that?
Yeah, luckily for most of these operations, it is state mandated or state legislation for them to have some type of key or asset management system. So the old manual process of handing out keys or handing out assets is just not viable. So they do have to have some type of electronic system like the one that Traka offers. And once you install something like this, employees are able to come into the system themselves. So you skip a step, of course, of having to have a person hand those items out. There is more responsibility attached to it because there is an electronic record, of every transaction that happens. And having the employees go and pick the keys out themselves gives you just a better process as far as the operation. You skip a step, that means you work a lot quicker. So the productivity really increases when you have something like that. And that's just a small step. When we're talking about increasing security, increasing safety of your guest, understanding what your keys are, understanding all of that, I think that's what's most important. That's what the systems provide. They provide you with audit trails of everything that happens, reports of everything that happens, and you can secure the keys in whichever way you want. So you can go as little as just selecting the key and removing it, or you can go as high as having multiple people authorizing that key to be removed. So the levels of security within electronic key systems are quite extensive.
And Ken, do you have anything to add to that point?
Sure. I think I would add to that from a Vingcard perspective, we will have our feet kind of in both worlds. Frank mentioned that Traka is primarily focused on the operational side of the hotel. Vingcard is primarily on the guest side, but we do create staff key cards as well. So the management of those is key, and together, Vingcard and Traka offer a pretty powerful integrated solution to help hotels not only manage their operational keys, their back of house keys, if you will, but their staff and guest keys also. A big portion of that is having the locks networked. So first of all, having RFID locks and mobile credentials when possible, and then audit trails to be able to know where the staff has been, and of course, instant deactivation when a master key is lost, for instance. But I think between the physical nature of securing keys and the ability to digitally control credentials, I think it's absolutely necessary for a hotel today.
Definitely. So as we've discussed, obviously there are large staff teams at these kinds of organizations, but also, particularly hotels are notoriously, they have up and down seasons in certain areas. So when hotels or casinos have a lot of temporary or seasonal employees, how do we make sure that then all those employees are trained properly on how to handle keys, but also trained properly without slowing down the day-to-day operations of these hotels and casinos?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. Obviously some of these operations are so massive that they do kind of have a fail-safe for something like that, where if you have employees coming in, there is a process for that. We can certainly help them. But the key for us is to properly train the management team. If you train the administrators, if you train the management team to really, really understand the system and to really put in place guidelines for their staff, they're going to have a successful operation. So making sure that, during our installation, making sure that, while we're on site, we really focus on training and really getting the most out of the system. We kind of are at a point where we're starting to find out that a lot of our end users don't really take advantage of all the features of the systems. And that's just Traka, any other key management system. So really making sure that they understand all the features for example, if you have an integration with Vingcard or with some of the products that they have, making sure that they know how to use it so that they can translate that to their day to day, which is going to make things a lot easier. And if they do have new employees coming in, is seamless. So yeah, I think the biggest piece is making sure that the training is done properly at the higher level.
I agree with that. And I think there's a lot of overflow here with Vingcard, and it does start with staff training. The largest challenge they face, as you probably know, is turnover. So once you get someone trained, they might move on to another job. I think it starts with training. And of course, again, I would add to that, um, from a Vingcard and the Traka perspective, a very simplified workflow. I know one thing I've learned with Frank is that they can have the staff can have temporary um, authentication and access, and their access can end at the end of their shift. And I think um, we've we've trained our customers to do the same with Vingcard credentials as well. It could be as simple as this credential works between these hours. And of course, we do offer ongoing training to our customers as well. And I think having built-in accountability, both systems track every transaction automatically, meaning each time a key was used or each time a key was given out. And making sure the staff understands that the misuses will be flagged, I think is really critical. But I would agree with Frank. Overall, it is training, and which our customers really rely on us to provide.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ken, I think you mentioned earlier about the mandates that hotels and casinos have to think about, and these are highly regulated spaces, specifically casinos as well. Um, how do compliance requirements shape these organizations' approach to key control and asset accountability? And how can that actually help them, I suppose, in their compliance journeys?
Well, that's interesting. I think, and Frank mentioned that earlier, that it's a requirement to have a key management system. The Nevada Gaming Control Board, for instance, they require very strict access control and full traceability for all sensitive areas. Um, I know Traka provides, that sort of tamper-proof audit trail that is required, and I think that's pretty unique. Um, and to my knowledge, Traka also can be configured to authorize staff. And then, of course, there's regulatory reporting. Vingcard audit logs record every entry into a guest room or a restricted area, and we're required to be able to provide data for investigations or audits, which happens all the time in Las Vegas. It's very critical that the customer has the ability to uh, remotely audit each and every lock. And in case staff is accused of theft, in case they need to know when a credential went in and out of a specific room at a specific time. And I believe those are probably the ones that stand out for our Las Vegas customers in particular.
Yeah, Frank, did you have anything to add to that point about compliance requirements?
Yeah, I mean, regulation has really helped, and I think maybe some casinos have, especially the smaller ones, may have maybe some things to say about it because it is expensive, but it's definitely helped as far as the operation. Maybe some of them don't even know it quite yet, but really having a system that is going to create a better security environment is going to help him immensely, and it's going to save them money at the end. I think a lot of these guys, uh, in some of the smaller operation, maybe there is a concern for the upfront cost of some of these systems, but at the end of the day, the understanding and our job is to show them the value of what the systems can do, how it's going to benefit them, And at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot more cost effective to have something in place um, that is definitely going to help them with security. It's going to help them with the day-to-day process and operation. So yeah, the regulation has certainly um, kind of without knowing has really helped these operations um, be successful.
You, yeah, definitely. I think, like you say there, it's there are wider impacts as well. It's not even just about the security side of things or the compliance side. It can actually help these hotels and casinos to be more efficient overall. Um, so it'd be great if you could also just let me know of any examples that you can think of where um, key or asset management has actually helped to improve hotels and casinos operations. If there are any real world case studies that we can chat about now.
Don't have a specific case study. I do have kind of an example of a recent deployment that we did with a project property management company that used one of our competitors for a very long time. So we kind of pitched the idea of doing things different, bringing Traka on board and just kind of give them fixing those pain points that they had before. And some of these properties really get used to dealing with the issues, if you know what I mean. Like even though their current systems may be failing or maybe not working properly, they get used to it and they don't want to change it, right? Because they understand how it works, understand what the issues are, and maybe having a new product or a different product, they think is probably going to create some chaos, and it can. So, we pitched some ideas to them that we thought was going to improve their processes, and yeah, we came to a resolution. They installed our electronic key management system in one of their properties, and they said, "Look, we'll give it a shot. We'll see. We're used to this. We'll give you guys a shot, and if it works, then great." And yeah, 3 months later, they called us, said they loved the system. They said that the new features and everything that we pitched to them was more than they expected, and they're now switching. I think we're in our fifth deployment in some of their properties. So, you know, understanding the systems, understanding how to buy a key management system, that's kind of more the idea, what to ask for when you go into these meetings and really making sure that the end users know and understand the features, applications, and what to expect. I think that's important. So yeah, I mean that specific company has benefited from switching over to a different product that has different features and has taught their employees that change can be good. You can change and have it be successful.
Yeah, Ken, do you have anything to add to that one?
Sure. I think we end up talking to especially our larger casino properties about, this continuum of um, guest experience, guest security and safety, operational efficiencies, um, and how we can combine all of those sort of seamlessly um, without really having to focus too much on one thing. So can one solution provide all of that? And I'd say I would give a few examples of things that we do for these large properties with our Vingcard system. First would be there are times where a guest checks into a room, for instance, and for whatever reason they don't like their room. Well, you can imagine at one of these massive hotels, the the guest looking at this, possibility of having to walk back down, get back in line, and get a key to another room and have to talk to somebody. And in our case, because of the way our locks are networked with our software system, they can simply call down to the front desk, and the front desk can simply change the encoding of their key to work with another lock. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, please just take your key to room 201. That should be fine. Uh, that is guest experience. Where it moves into security is twofold. One, the guest is seeing the security and also being assured, maybe a slight annoyance, but also being assured that there is extra security at the hotel. And the example I would use would be elevator access. So when you walk into, I don't know if you guys have been to any of the large hotels here, but you'll know when you do go to the elevator banks to go up to your floor, in general, you have to present your key. And that's called floor access. And in prior to the developments in software, if hotels wanted to control the access to their floors, they had to physically have a security person standing there looking at your key card. And the security person might not even know if that key card is activated or not. It was just sort of a surface way to ensure that only someone with a key could get into an elevator. Well, now the technology is such that they don't need to have a security guard there. Once the guest presents their key card to the elevator reader, it will take them to the floor that key has been programmed to. And I think that's helped the hotels from a couple angles. One, from a security perspective, because remember, there's casinos, 24/7 casinos attached to these hotels. And two, the guests feel a little bit better that not just anyone can go to their floor. Related would be this, what we call wandering intruder. This has been prevalent in over the last 5 or 7 years, where folks will walk up and down the hallway of a hotel just pushing on doors, anticipating that someone hasn't latched their door all the way. So our system provides an alert called Door Ajar Alert. I know, creative name. And if there's a door that's ajar for whatever time limit the hotel sets, an alarm goes off, an email goes out to whomever should get that email, and that can be addressed with a health check. And the other would be someone finding a key card and then walking up and down the hallway to see if that will work. Again, if that key card is presented to more than 4 or 5 locks and it doesn't work, that key card is automatically canceled in the system. So I think from an operational efficiency perspective, I would say that the strength of Vingcard is its ability to integrate with other systems that the hotel has purchased. In other words, there are efficiency software programs called Hot Sauce that the housekeeping team would use. In our case, if the housekeeper uses, if there needs to be changes to where the housekeeper goes, between Hot Sauce and Vingcard's system, their room access can change, their requirements can change, their assigned rooms can be changed, and their key access would change accordingly. And this keeps them from having to go back somewhere to get a new key encoded. So those are kind of real life examples of challenges they face, and then how between Vingcard and Traka we can help them address those.
I think that's a really interesting point there that you make, because it's not even just about the security side of things or the efficiency side of things, which of course are very, very important, but also the guest experience. If guests know that their belongings and where they're staying, that's safer, and also if they have a slightly more streamlined experience overall, they're going to have a much more enjoyable stay at a hotel or experience at a casino, and that's going to make them a repeat customer. So there's, again, that element of return on investment, isn't there, for all of these kinds of solutions. So thinking ahead as well, I just wanted to ask about how you think hotels and casinos can improve their security ecosystems even further into the future. So Ken, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my first thought would be to integrate Traka and Vingcard, because of who we are and how Traka operates. Um, our systems can be integrated together, meaning that primarily I'll allow Frank to talk a little more intelligently on this, but what's attractive to the customers I've spoken to about this is that um, the, the requirement to manage two databases disappears, where the Vingcard database can be used by Traka and vice versa. Um, I'd say the other is to move to digital keys. And while mobile key is not anything new, mobile key's been around for, I think, as long as I've been in the industry. It's been talked about, and I think the adoption of mobile key has been somewhat low relative to some other technologies. I think primarily because people are getting weary of downloading apps. And I think I could speak for probably all of us on this podcast that the last thing I want to do is add another app to my phone. Um, and I'm happy to say that in response, Vingcard led this effort to move to a wallet key. So much like you do with your boarding pass, we can now deliver a key to a guest, and that guest can then move that key into their wallet, meaning when they do have to get onto a crowded elevator at one of the Las Vegas properties and there's 6 or 7 people in the elevator, and it requires you to present your key to a reader to take you to your floor, you don't have to fumble with your app any longer. It's just in your phone using NFC technology, and the phone doesn't even have to be activated. You just present your phone to the reader and it reads your credential. So not only is that more convenient because of all the reasons I just said, but look, it's safer. You're not going to lose your phone in the same way you might misplace your key. So I would say to any of our customers, and I do on a daily basis, please consider, integrating Traka, and please encourage your staff to issue, digital credentials as well.
Absolutely. So Frank, what are your thoughts on how hotels, casinos security will change or evolve in the future?
I think the future for key management is certainly tracking keys outside of the key cabinet. I think especially for casinos, hotels, depending on the size of the property, that can be helpful. Smaller hotels probably won't need anything that intricate, but when we're talking about casinos and large resorts and 5-star hotels, being able to track keys outside of that key system is crucial, specifically in the casino environment, because if any type of key, whether it is an electronic key or a hard key, if any of those keys walk out of that facility, there will be some issues. We don't know if someone made a copy of that key. We don't know if someone handed that key out to anyone. And replicating that key could mean a loss of millions of dollars. And also, not only in, somebody breaking into the hotel or breaking into the gaming machines, but also the money that's going to cost you replacing all those locks, all those keys, rekeying all your slot machines or whatever machines were compromised. That can be problematic. So having the technology to be able to track keys outside the key cabinet, and if a key actually walks out of that area or leaves the premises, and setting off an alarm would be crucial. So currently, Traka can do something like that. We're able to give alarms if a key walks out of that facility. I think what I picture, what I would like to see is live GPS tracking. So not just relying on crossing some type of geofence, but being able to log into the software and seeing where your keys are at all times. Now, does that violate, or maybe does that create some issues with unions and things like that? It possibly can. But I think a lot of these properties are gonna love seeing something like that, and I believe that that is the future of key management, and all of us in the industry need to move and push ahead to get something like that done.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much, Frank and Ken. It's been really fascinating to speak with you today. And thank you both so much for joining me on this episode. It's been lovely to speak with you both.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate the time, and yeah, it was lovely.
My pleasure, Victoria. Thank you so much.
And thanks also to our listeners for tuning in to this Security Journal America's Leaders in Security podcast produced in partnership with Traka. I've been your host, Victoria Hanscomb. Make sure to keep an eye and an ear out for our next episode coming soon.